Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, guys, the Toronto Maple Leafs have acquired David Rittich, big save Dave, for a 2022 third-round pick. And I'm here to tell you that I hate this trade. Not only because it's 11 o'clock and I'm doing the second video of the day and I had just sat down to watch some Netflix, the nice bubbly, but Dave Rittich is not even good. This season, for the Calgary Flames, he has an .882 save percentage against teams that are not the Toronto Maple Leafs. Against the Leafs, for whatever reason, in 4 games, he's a .941. They are getting him at 50% salary retained, but I don't know, man. I'd rather have Michael Hutchison be the backup than this guy. If we're looking at the advanced analytics for goalies in terms of goals saved above average and goals saved above expected, the numbers are not pretty for David Rittich, and these are including the games where he absolutely stonewalled the Maple Leafs. The best way to calculate how much cap space the Toronto Maple Leafs have left is to look at it like this. The current amount that they have placed on LTIR, Riley Nash and Frederik Andersen, is $7.75 million. And with those players on LTIR, the Toronto Maple Leafs can exceed the salary cap by their total amount of cap hit. So that means that their new ceiling is $89.25 million, because remember, just because they're on LTIR doesn't mean that they don't count. They still count. It just shifts up. Today's current cap hit right now is $87.599,741 million. But what's the leanest that we can make this roster in preparation for a trade? The leanest without having to place anyone on waivers, because that's a very specific conversation. So just looking up and down the roster right now, if they acquired another forward or Nylander came off the COVID protocol list, we can move Alexander Barabanov and his $925,000 out of here. And because they also acquired a goalie, they don't have to carry 3 of them on the team right now. So that means you can also subtract Michael Hutchison's $725,000. And then if we take that leanest number and subtract it by the total amount, including the salary cap ceiling, 81.5, plus the 7.75 that they can exceed by, we get $3.3 million in cap space. And if they were to get 50% salary retained on the remaining $3.3 million, then that would be $6.6 million. And if they got another team to step in and retain a portion of it up to 50% like they did in the Nick Foligno trade, you can then double it again, and they could afford to acquire Connor McDavid. But if Frederik Andersen were to come back sometime between now and the end of the regular season, that would shrink their LTIR salary pool, or the amount that they could exceed the cap, by $5 million. And if you subtract the cap hit of this roster by the amount that they could exceed the salary cap ceiling, plus Riley Nash's LTIR amount, they'd be $628,741 short. So at this point, I think we've passed the point of no return with Frederik Andersen coming back during the regular season. Barring them, of course, dealing someone off of their roster that saves them cap space, and everyone's eyes just goes whoosh right over to Alexander Kerfoot when I say that. A guy that I think that the Maple Leafs should be in on if he's available is Scott Laughton from the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers are firmly behind both the New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins. They have more games played than the Bruins, and they're 4 points behind them, and their goaltending's not very good. Carter Hart's really struggled this year. The Flyers have not been very good this season, but Scott Laughton is very much a beast. He's not very good offensively, but the Flyers are better offensively with him on the ice than without him, and defensively, they are much, much better with him on the ice than without him. He also brings a lot to their penalty kill as well. There's not really any contest when comparing these two players, and Alex Kerfoot for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're not going to be able to protect him in the upcoming Seattle expansion draft. They more than likely lose him in that. But if they can trade him to the Flyers, maybe the Flyers can protect him. And maybe they can't, so maybe they'd flip him to another team. I don't know, maybe this is a 3-team deal, and someone else takes on Kerfoot. He's not a bad player. He signed for a couple more seasons and his salary goes down each season. A rebuilding or a retooling team that has the cap space would want this player. And then at that point, that gives you an embarrassment of center depth with Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Scott Lawton, and Riley Nash down the middle. You don't even have to play Engvall there anymore. You can move him to the wing where he's probably more comfortable anyway. Man, I mean, Nick Foligno for a first isn't bad. I don't love it. I don't hate it. But I would have really liked to have paid that price for Scott Lawton. He's worth that. And then at that point, if you got the Flyers to retain 50% of his cap hit, they take on Kerfoot, they'd have more than enough space to activate Anderson off of LTIR, and they're a better team. But I don't think that the Maple Leafs have to make any subtractions from their roster. They don't have to look at trading a guy who makes more money for a guy who makes less and giving up all those assets. I think that we're fine with Kerfoot. Really, honestly, I want another defenseman. I don't think that Frederik Andersen is coming back. Like I suggested in the previous video where I talked about the Nick Foligno trade, and in the video before that, I think that Andersen, he's not going to be ready to play games in the next week or so. He's barely skated. And then at that point, it's more than likely that they'll send him to the Marlies on a long-term injury reserve conditioning stint. And the reason why I'm not showing it on the screen is because I've talked about it in 2 videos now. But they can send him there for 6 days or 3 games and then ask for an extension. And then even after the stint is over, they can still leave him on LTIR. They did it with Nikita Soshnikov a couple of years ago. And it's just, Freddie's not coming back. This David Rittich move solidifies that. This is disappointing to me because when you look at these 2 trades side by side, it doesn't add up. Big Save Dave is not Big Save Dave. He's Big Disappointment Dave, like we called him earlier in the video this season. The fact that the Boston Bruins got Mike Riley for the same price that the Leafs paid for a goalie who's not as good as Michael Hutchison, this is a disappointing trade to me. I guess if you really needed a goalie, he doesn't have to quarantine. But I don't know, man. I would have rather have rolled the dice with Joseph Woll or Veni Vefalainen. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. I don't know. It just really bugs me, the 2 guys that we've talked about for a while here on this channel as good depth adds for the Toronto Maple Leafs go for the same price or less than what we gave up for Dave Rittich, who's not even as good as Michael Hutchison, nowhere near it. It's just really disappointing to me. The third pair for the Toronto Maple Leafs this season has been trusted with next to no responsibility. They play very, very sheltered minutes. Zach Bogosian has at least been a positive contributor to the Maple Leafs' penalty kill, but Travis Dermott, to be fair to him, has played better over the last week or so. I've noticed him more, the good and the bad, but at the same time, it's just, I'm really, really underwhelmed. And if TJ Brody or Jake Muzzin were to go down to injury, they don't have anyone in the organization who can fill those minutes just adequately, right? You're not going to be able to replace those guys and have players just as good as them. But guys like John Merrill or Mike Riley would have been able to have given you something. I would trust those 2 guys more than what I would Travis Dermott and Zach Bogosian. And the same can be said for a guy like Jamie Alexiak, who Friedman mentioned in his most recent edition of 31 Thoughts. We've talked about him here on this channel. I would trust Alexiak, Merrill, or Mike Riley a lot more than what I would Travis Dermott or Zach Bogosian or Rasmus Sandin or Timothy Liljegren if there was an injury to one of the top 4 defensemen right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know, you give up the 1st and 2/4 for Nick Foligno, you pay a 3rd round pick for Dave Rittich, who's not as good as Michael Hutchison. To me, I'm just really, really underwhelmed with the moves right now, even though I really, really like the addition of Nick Foligno and Riley Nash. And maybe I'm underwhelmed by the additions because the team is already so good, right? I've been really, really happy with Alex Galchenyuk. Really, really blown away by him. So maybe the Maple Leafs don't have to add too much at the deadline. I just thought that they could have gotten a lot more value out of a 1st, 2/4, and a 3rd is all. I don't mind giving up the 1st, the 3rd, and the 2/4. I would have just liked to have gotten more than Nick Foligno and David Rittich. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what he does tomorrow. I'm really underwhelmed right now, and it's not so much the Nick Foligno trade. I like that trade. I will like that trade when I see him on the ice in the jersey doing the things that Nick Foligno does well. It's just this David Rittich trade sucks. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It sucks. So I guess make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And guys, I guess just remember that the Leafs are in first place